UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Ribas is finally here. I've been waiting to do a video on this because it's quite possibly one of the best fight nights that I've seen in a while. I understand that some of you might not agree with me, but as a hardcore, this is quite possibly the best way to start the year as a UFC fan. Now let's get started with my breakdown. Now we've got Mackenzie Dern, absolute queen, versus Amanda Ribas, another queen in the division. And these two are some of my favourite fighters, but personally I'm going to be going with Mackenzie Dern. I understand that they've fought before, and Amanda Ribas was able to fluke a win. However, I just think that, Mackenzie Dern is just, she's grown so much, and she's an excellent fighter, and I just think, she's going to be able to pull this one off via a 29-28 split decision. So yeah, make sure you put that in your parlay. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris. Now these two are some of the best fighters in the welterweight division. They're right there at the top. I think Santiago could be fighting for a title possibly sometime soon if he wouldn't have lost his last fight. And same with Carlston Harris. He did lose to Chaos Williams in the first round. Got knocked out, but I think he's going to be able to pull this one off. I think he's improved leaps and bounds, so I think he's going to be able to pull this one off. I'm going to be picking him by a headshot dead second round. Next up, we've got Cesar Almeida. He's related to Alex Pereira somehow. He trains with him, I believe. And we've got Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who I think he went to a no contest with Cody Brundage recently because he hit him in the back of the head, and Cody Brundage, being the actor he is, he was able to convert it into a no contest. Cesar Almeida had quite an underwhelming performance against Ihor Peteria, and prior to that did lose a fight to Roman Kopylov because he has no ground game. So I could see Abdul Razak Al Hassan winning this. However, I do need to note that Cesar Almeida does seem to have some sort of plot armor. So I'm going to be picking Cesar Almeida. Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. Now, Roman Kopylov's quite a great fighter. Obviously, he's one of the best strikers in the division. If you follow Lucas Tracy, you would know that this guy could beat Izzy in the striking. He could beat Izzy in the striking. He'd pose quite a big challenge to Israel Adesanya in the striking realm, and I think he could beat him. But, Chris Curtis, on the other hand, he has had a close battle with Brendan Allen recently, and, he beat him prior to that back in the day. So, Chris is quite a good fighter, and he could beat Roman Kopylov, but I think, it could be a 29-28 Chris Curtis, but I think Roman Kopylov will end up winning this one by a close decision. Very close. It could be a split decision, 29-28. The rounds are going to be quite close nevertheless, but I'm going with Roman Kopylov. Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Bashi. Austin Bashi, he reminds me a bit of a Khabib. He's got that. He's got a very impressive wrestling background, and we did see on the Contender Series he was able to utilize that to beat his opponent. And Christian Rodriguez, on the other hand, he is an experienced vet when it comes to shutting down prospects. We've seen it with Cameron Simon, we've seen it with Raul Rosas Jr., and we've seen it with somebody else who I can't remember, but he did arguably rob him. So, we do know that Christian Rodriguez is somewhat of a threat and is not an easy fighter to fight in your debut. So Austin Bashi, I am actually going to be picking him. However, I do think this might be a close fight, but I'm still going to be picking Austin Bashi by 30-27 via control time because he does seem like an excellent grappler and wrestler. So I think he'll be able to beat him. Ponehelehele Soriano. I might have seen him fight before, I don't know. Probably just don't remember the face here or the name. And then, we've got Uros Medic. He's got some name value there, so I'm going to be picking him because, he's a rememberable name, right? I do remember the name, so I'm going to be picking Uros Medic by... what should I pick him by? I really don't know. I don't know what to pick him by. But I'll pick him. Then we've got Jose Johnson. He did fight Asuel Mabayev. He's one of the tallest flyweights, and he lost to Asuel Mabayev, I believe. Then we've got Felipe Bunes, who I can't remember this guy, to be honest. Really don't know. He might be making his debut. But, I think I'll be picking Jose Johnson, and I'm going to pick him by the KO here, because we've got him at 50% KO odds. I think he'll KO Felipe in the 3rd round. Next up, we got Marco Tulio versus Ihor Potieria. I'm going to be picking Marco Tulio to win this one. Marco did beat one of Alex Pereira's rivals, okay? So one of the people who beat Alex Pereira in his kickboxing days and is now currently his teammate was on the Contender Series, and they made a whole big deal out of it. And Marco Tulio was able to beat him, so, I could see Marco Tulio just beating Ihor Potieria in the form of a knockout. I'm going to be picking Marco Tulio by a knockout in the 2nd round against Ihor Potieria. And don't get me wrong, Ihor is a very, skilled fighter. He's an excellent fighter, but, he does tend to lose to pretty much everyone who is, halfway decent. Next up, we've got the absolute hardcores main event, okay? Thiago Moises, versus Trey Ogden. These two are some of the craftiest names you'll hear out there. You will hear Lucas Tracy, MMA Guru, all of them toss out these names all the time. They'll always toss these names out. Mate, Trey Ogden's a fucking beast, mate. Thiago Moises, he's got to win over Thiago Moises. He's got to be quite good. And so, these are a couple legends in the lightweight division. And I'll be picking Thiago Moises to actually get this win because, he's just a beast. He's an absolute beast. This guy arguably could be in there with one of the greats. So I'm picking Thiago Moises. And I think he'll just, he'll edge out a nice decision. Next up, we've got Preston Parkins versus Andreas Gustafsson. Obviously related to Alexander Gustafsson. I'll be picking Gustafsson to win this fight by a brilliant finish in the 2nd round. Next up, we've got Anesta Cacciotti versus Nicolia Cagliari. I'm going to be picking Cagliari to win this one by a brilliant submission. Next up, we've got Mohamed Gadjalalulasov versus Bruno Lopez. I'm going to be picking Magomed to win this one. Magomed just seems like, he's got some experience. He's one of the best fighters from Bahrain, right beside Shamil Gaziev. So, I think Magomed, he's been getting that good training in with Shamil, and he should be able to pull this one off. I'll pick him by a leg lock. Mate, he's going to fucking leg lock Bruno Lopez in the 3rd round. Fatima Klein versus Victoria Dudakova. Victoria Dudakova. I do recognise that name, actually. I'll be picking Victoria Dudakova because I recognise her name. And, I'm not the biggest hardcore when it comes to WMMA. But, when I do recognise a name, I tend to pick them. So I'm going to be picking Victoria Dudakova to win this one. Next up, we got Habib Nurmagomedov versus Yanala Smooch. I'm going to be picking Yanala Smooch, actually. He's a brilliant fighter from Israel. One of the best fighters from Israel. The only fighter from Israel, I believe. But, we've got... Actually, no, I'm going to be picking Aliev. I think Aliev's just too good. He reminds me a bit of Khabib. And I think, Yanala Smooch, he's a decent fighter. But I think, Aliev is just undefeated. And, he's got such a beautiful story. Obviously, I know a lot about him. And he's one of the best fighters I've ever seen. So, I think he's going to be able to beat Yanala Smooch. And it's going to be a beautiful ground and pound finish. That's it for the video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. As per usual, let me know if you disagree with anything. I hope you guys enjoy this breakdown very much. Leave a like, and yeah, see you guys in the next one.